Back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted as always to be joined by Elliot Grigg. We have just seen Nick Ball defeat Isaac Dogboe over a 12 rounds unanimous decision in Manchester with scorecards of 119, 108, 118, 109, and 116, 111. Those include a knockdown in Ball's favour, knocking down Isaac Dogboe in round four. Elliot, what were your thoughts on that fight? What did you think about it?
You know what? Like, I don't think I was excited about the fight going in, and I don't think it lit in the way that I would have wanted it to have lit. But to be perfectly honest with you, thought it was quite scrappy. A lot of it, I thought there was a lot of kind of pushing, shoving, general bit of wrestling going on throughout the fight. I don't think Dogboe threw is not. I think Dogboe's footwork was actually very good, but he seemed to get in positions and not actually throw. But having said all that, what that was to me was actually very, very commendable performance from Nick Ball. That was a very dangerous fight going into that, a real step up, and to see him actually win. But I actually, I did say that he would win. I think I predicted with Paul that he'd win on points. We both went points, but to be honest, we had it like sort of 7-5 sort of points. Like maybe I think Paul went 8-4. I was not expecting it to be as convincing as that, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought he just, yeah, I mean, it was the scorecards. I haven't got any complaints with the scorecards. I think it was very wide. So in what wasn't necessarily a fight that was great to watch, equally, you've got to look at the result there and go, that's all that matters. Well done, Nick Ball.
Yeah, I think a lot of people went into this fight. I think that most people were going for Nick Ball, but a lot of people were saying this isn't kind of a gimme fight. Isaac Dogboe is a former world champion, been in with some top fighters. Don't assume Nick Ball's going to win this. I know we had some people within ESBR kind of predicting a very close fight, and it just it wasn't a close fight. It was a dominant performance, and I think a lot of people struggled to give Dogbo more than 2 rounds out of 12, which is yeah a surprise. Were you just were you surprised at how one-sided it was, Elliot? I think some people would be. Yeah, were you?
Yeah, I was, for one of a better words, frankly. I thought, like you say, I mean, look, Dogbo was in last time, what, against Robsy Ramirez, wasn't he? Lost pretty much similar sort of cards that he lost here. Like you said, he's been in with Navarrete before, and again, UD and got stopped in the 12th. So for me, frankly, I was expecting more action from Dogbo, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, he just seemed he just seemed reluctant in some ways to throw. Like obviously, when it got to get desperate, he was just launching, shots from anywhere that were kind of missing. But there was times when as you see him like use. I think his to be honest with you, I think his footwork was better than Nick Ball's. He'd get into the positions, he sort of glide and move in a certain way, and he'd get into the positions, but he just wouldn't throw. So for me, that was surprising, and I also feel that he kind of like Nick Ball in a way. I think this is obviously his stock punch. Kind of overplayed the leg hook somewhat, like at the point where like Dogbo was just essentially preoccupied with stopping that landing on him. So it kind of made for a scrappy fight in that way. But yeah, I was a bit surprised. I was more surprised with Dogbo, frankly, than I was with Nick Ball. I think Nick Ball fights as I expected him to fight. But I expected a bit more from Dogbo. Like you say, former world champion has been in there with obviously the champions in the division as well. So I expected more of a show than to get a wide UD loss, frankly.
Yeah, no, it's look, yeah, no, it could to hear you kind of give your take on the fight as always, mate. Moving on, like I don't feel like there's too much more to dissect from the fight. It was a very one-sided yeah, it was a very one-sided performance in Nick Paul's favor. 26 years old now, 19-0. Um, look, he's had a fantastic few months. I remember we mentioned off camera there the Isaac Lowe fight, which was seen as a 50-50 on the undercard of Tyson Fury versus Dillian White, stopped Isaac Lowe in the sixth round. And then, over 18 months later, he's now in a fantastic position to fight for a world title in 2024. Um, do you think that's going to happen, Elliot? He's retained his WBC silver featherweight title now. I don't have a lot of interest in rankings and mandatory positions and silver and interim belts. You know what it's like. But yeah, what are your thoughts on whether that's going to happen?
I think he might fight for world title next year. Yeah, I do believe that might actually happen. Whether he wins a world title, I mean, to be honest with you, in a way that WBC belt, what's that? That's got the Vargas sort of Figueroa line, hasn't it? In that one, so that's actually quite a hard belt to win, frankly. But I actually do think he'll fight for a world title next year. I do think that'll happen. Um, I mean, we can suppose have a little discussion on how we think he may fare against the champions in the division. Do I think he'd win a world title next year? Against the champions that are currently there? Maybe he's got a shot against Lopez. If he fought Lopez, frankly, for me, that's. I mean, that would be to me that'd just be a tee off. And essentially, who would land first? I can see him equally being stopped or equally stopping Lopez. Um, but yeah, Ramirez is a difficult one for me as well, simply because Ramirez only had, what, 13, 14 fights. Obviously, he's got that Nova victory. Got fought Dogbo as well, obviously. But again, I almost feel like it's hard to. I mean, I know some people, especially in the SBR, are saying that Ramirez will kind of stop him, or if not, wide point him. But again, for me, I'm still not kind of fully convinced about Robert Ramirez in that sense. Like, I don't get me wrong, I think he's a great fighter, but until I see sort of more names on that record, I'm not going to sit there and make that sort of claim. So for me, I think he will fight for a world title, but I'm not convinced necessarily that if he fought someone like a Figueroa or if he fought even maybe a Vargas, I'm not convinced. I think Alberto Lopez would be the one if he wants to win a world title next year for me, if he can somehow pull that fight off.
Yeah, we'll see. Look, it's a fantastic division. Ray Vargas is currently the WBC champion. He's not actually defended that title for over a year now. So look, we'll see. I think it's whatever. If Nick Bull does fight for a world title next year, it's not going to be it's not going to be an easy, straightforward fight as it shouldn't be. He's fighting for top honors. Final question from me to you, Elliot. Here is there is actually a question mark over is Nick Bull the best British featherweight here? Not saying this fight's going to happen, but I'm interested to get your opinion on it. Nick Bull versus Josh Warrington next. Josh Warrington, he's just had that fight against Lee Wood. In the grander stages of his career now, Nick Bull's in very good form. Again, not saying it's going to happen, but if it did happen next for both fighters, what are your thoughts on that fight?
Very tough. Very, very tough to predict, frankly. I mean, I know you've asked people on the spot. The reason I'm finding it tough is because the styles of both men. I'd expect Josh Warrington to be busy, obviously, throughout that fight, but Nick Bull's obviously got power. I actually probably would lean towards Nick Bull, actually, frankly. The way, like, I mean, that's kind of harsh because obviously Warrington has only lost to kind of better fighters or like decent fighters, obviously, up at that level. But I also feel like he's had, there's a lot of fights now down there as well. And I feel like that wouldn't necessarily play into his favor. And I just feel like even, fighting guys like Kiko Martinez, like not really, I mean, obviously he won that fight, but it's just like, Martinez was old as well, obviously. And like the Wood fight as well, I think Wood would beat him again, beat him comfortably. He got stopped in that. So for me, I'd edge Nick Bull. I would edge Nick Bull, frankly. Would I think he'd get a stoppage? I think he'd just bully Warrington, frankly. Like kind of like what he's done tonight. I think Warrington be wary of his power. Um, and I just think Warrington's obviously not got the power himself, so it would have to be a case of just grinding out Nick Bull for 12 rounds. So we know what Nick Bull's engine's like. I don't think you'd be able to grind Nick Bull down. So I think Nick Bull's engine would outdo Warrington's engine, frankly, even though Warrington's got a fantastic engine. So I would lean towards Nick Bull, possibly. I think points, actually. I was going to say late stoppage, but I actually think he might go to points.
Interesting. We'll see. See if see if it happens. And to be honest, like I do want to see if someone can beat this guy. I think that's it's maybe a dark thing to say, but when someone just carries on winning, stays undefeated, I personally start asking, right, who can this guy be beaten? Who can beat them? And I'm starting to ask that question about Nick Bull now. So we will see. Elliot, been great to speak to you tonight. Review two okay-ish fights, but we move on and we'll be back another time. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching.